Many times in life, you'll find someone constantly in your thoughts, even when there's no communication. My brothers and sisters, this can leave you restless, confused, and even heartbroken. But remember, the heart of a believer is never left without direction. Allah has given us the most powerful gift. When you're unsure, when your heart is unsettled, raise your hands and speak to the one who already knows what is hidden in your chest. If that person is meant for you, Allah will open the way. And if not, Allah will remove them from your heart with peace. Never allow yourself to be trapped by endless thoughts. Instead, seek clarity through Istikhārah. Trust Allah's plan and keep your heart alive with dhikr. Because true peace is not in chasing people, it's in surrendering to Allah's wisdom. Don't lose hope, don't overthink. Just place your heart in the care of the one who controls all hearts. One of the most beautiful realities of human life is the ability to form deep emotional bonds with others. These bonds often go beyond words, time, and even physical presence. Sometimes you may find that a certain person constantly occupies your mind, even if there is no direct communication between you. This is not a coincidence. It is the sign of how powerful human connections can be and how the heart and soul often communicate in ways beyond what we can see. Emotional attachment and human nature. Allah created humans as social beings who thrive on connection. In the Qadr, Allah mentions the importance of companionship. And we created you in pairs. Surah An-Naba 70-88. This verse reflects how deeply humans are wired to connect with others. When we care for someone, share experiences, or build trust, our hearts naturally attach to them. Even if physical communication is cut off, the emotional attachment remains alive in the heart, replaying memories, hopes, or feelings of concern. Why someone stays in your thoughts when someone is always in your mind? It can mean several things. Love and affection, true love, whether between spouses, friends, or family, creates an invisible bond. The heart remembers those it cares about, even without reminders. Concern or care sometimes. Constant thoughts about someone come from a place of worry. If you deeply care for their well-being, your subconscious keeps reminding you of them. Shared energy, emotional bonds are like spiritual threads. The deeper the connection, the harder it is to sever. Unfinished conversations, when feelings remain unexpressed or situations unresolved, the mind continues to revisit the person linked to them. Islamic perspective on bonds of the heart. Islam acknowledges that emotional bonds are strong and can be a source of both comfort and test. The Prophet said, cells are like conscripted soldiers. Those that recognize one another will be united, and those that do not will be divided. See Sahih Muslim. This hadith highlights that some connections are soul level. Hearts are naturally drawn to one another by Allah's will. If someone keeps returning to your mind, it may be because your souls are tied in a way beyond worldly explanation. Managing emotional bonds with wisdom. While emotional connections are natural, Islam teaches us balance. Constantly thinking about someone should not distract us from worship, responsibilities, or inner peace. Instead, such thoughts should be redirected towards dua, asking Allah to guide the relationship, protect the heart, and grant clarity. If the connection is good for your faith and life, Allah will make it easier. If not, He will gradually remove the attachment and replace it with something better. Emotional bonds, when managed with wisdom, can become a means of spiritual growth rather than distraction. The power of emotional bonds is real. When someone lingers in your thoughts without communication, it reflects love, care, or destiny beyond your control. Instead of resisting these feelings, Islam teaches us to acknowledge them, place them in Allah's hands, and seek His guidance. In this way, emotional bonds become not just attachments of the heart, but stepping stones towards spiritual maturity. When someone stays in your thoughts repeatedly, even without any direct contact, it often signals the presence of unresolved feelings. These feelings can range from love, regret, longing, even hurt or unspoken words. The mind and heart have a natural way of holding on to what was left incomplete. Islam, with its deep understanding of the human heart, teaches us that such emotions are not random. They are reminders to reflect, purify intentions, and seek clarity from Allah. Why do unresolved feelings linger? The human heart remembers strongly what was never concluded. There are many reasons why unresolved feelings can cause someone to remain in your thoughts. Unspoken words, perhaps you wanted to express gratitude, apology, or affection but never had the chance. The heart replays these scenarios, leaving an emotional echo. Unfinished relationships, sometimes friendships, family ties, or even deeper relationships end abruptly without closure. This lack of closure often keeps the person's memory alive in your mind. Regret and guilt, if someone was wronged or treated unfairly, the conscience holds on to that burden, manifesting as constant thoughts about them. Hope and longing, the mind often clings to what it desires but couldn't attain, creating a cycle of repeated reflection. Islamic lens on unresolved emotions. Islam acknowledges the heart's vulnerability and its tendency to get attached. But it also provides the believer with a framework to deal with unresolved feelings. The Prophet taught the importance of forgiveness, both for others and for oneself, because unresolved emotions often weigh heavily on the heart. Allah reminds us in the Quran, so pardon them and overlook their misdeeds. Indeed, Allah loves the doers of good. So Surah Al-Ma'idah 5:30. This verse highlights that letting go, whether by forgiving or seeking forgiveness, is a way to free the heart from unresolved burdens. The spiritual impact of holding on unresolved feelings can distract a believer, cause sleepless nights, and even weaken concentration in worship. They act as a whisper of the past, pulling attention away from the present. For some, it may lead to sadness. For others, it may bring false hope. In either case, the soul remains unsettled until clarity or closure is sought. How to heal and move forward? Turn to dua, ask Allah to either reunite hearts if the bond is good, or remove the attachment if it harms your faith. Seek forgiveness if the unresolved feeling is tied to guilt. Sincerely make istighfar, and if possible, apologize to the person involved. Forgive and release if you were wronged. Choose forgiveness for your own peace. Holding grudges only keeps the wound open. Redirect energy, channel your emotions into worship, Quran recitation, and acts of kindness. The heart heals best when it is busy with Allah. When someone constantly lingers in your mind, it may be less about them and more about the unfinished emotions within you. Islam teaches that peace comes not by clinging to the past, but by releasing it into Allah's hands. By forgiving, seeking forgiveness, and making dua, unresolved feelings can transform into valuable lessons that strengthen the soul rather than weaken it. Sometimes when someone is constantly on your mind without any direct interaction, it is more than just emotions or memories. It could be linked to a spiritual connection and the reality of Qadr, destiny. In Islam, nothing happens without the will of Allah. Even the people who enter our lives and stay in our thoughts are part of His divine plan. Recognizing this can help us see such connections not as coincidences, but as purposeful signs that carry wisdom. The concept of Qadr, the divine decree, Allah tells us in the Qur'an, indeed, all things we created with predestination. Surah Al-Qamar 4 and 4:9. This verse reminds us that everything from life's biggest events to the smallest details happens according to Allah's decree. If a certain person repeatedly crosses your mind, it may be Allah's way of reminding you of their place in your destiny, either as a blessing, a test, or a lesson. Some connections are fleeting, while others leave permanent imprints on our hearts. Even if communication is lost, Qadr can cause their presence to linger in your thoughts, shaping your choices and spiritual growth. Spiritual connections between souls. The Prophet beautifully explained, souls are like conscripted soldiers. Those that recognize one another will be united, and those that do not will be divided. Sahih Muslim. This hadith shows that some souls are naturally drawn to each other because Allah has already written their bond. These spiritual ties can manifest as constant thoughts, feelings of familiarity, inexplicable comfort when remembering someone. Such bonds are not limited to romantic relationships. They can include friendships, family ties, or even mentors who impact your faith. When a person remains in your mind, it may signal a soul-level connection designed by Allah for a greater purpose. When thoughts reflect destiny, it is important to note that being reminded of someone does not always mean you are destined to be with them. Sometimes it is a test, teaching patience, self-control, or trust in Allah. Other times it may be a sign of guidance. Allah placing them in your thoughts to inspire dua for them or to encourage reconciliation. In either case, these reminders are not random. They are woven into your Qadr to shape your heart and guide your actions toward Allah's will. How to handle such thoughts Islamically? Make dua, ask Allah to clarify whether this connection is careless, good for you. If it is, He will make the path easy. If not, He will remove the attachment. Trust Qadr. Remember that destiny is always written in your favor, even when you cannot see the wisdom. Stay balanced. Avoid obsessing over thoughts. Spiritual connections should bring you closer to Allah, not distract you from Him. Seek guidance in Istikhārah. When in doubt, pray Istikhārah and ask Allah to direct your heart toward what benefits your deen and dunya. When someone constantly lives in your thoughts, may reflect a deeper spiritual bond than Allah's Qadr at play. Rather than resisting or overthinking, Islam teaches us to accept these moments with trust in Allah. Every heart that crosses your path does so for a reason, either as a blessing, a lesson, or a test. By placing such matters in Allah's hands, you allow your destiny to unfold with peace, knowing that He is the best of planners. When someone remains in your thoughts without communication, it can bring feelings of confusion, longing, or even restlessness. In such moments, the believer must turn to the most powerful tool Allah has given us, dua, as supplication. Alongside dua, Islam emphasizes seeking clarity so that the heart does not remain lost in uncertainty. Both of these together form the path toward peace and guidance. Dua, direct connection to Allah, is not just asking for worldly needs, it is a direct line between the servant and Allah. The Prophet A described dua as the essence of worships, asunan al-tamidid. When someone is always in your thoughts, dua transforms those feelings into a spiritual act. Instead of being consumed by overthinking, you present the matter to Allah, who knows what is hidden in your heart and what is best for your future. Allah says, "And when my servants ask you concerning me, indeed I am near. I respond to the invocation of the supplicant when he calls upon me." Surah Al-Baqarah 2:26. This verse reassures us that no thought, emotion, or worry is too small for Allah. If the person in your mind is meant for you, dua will be a means of opening that door. If not, dua will be the key to letting go peacefully. Clarity through Istikhārah. Islam does not encourage being stuck in uncertainty. The Prophet A taught the beautiful prayer of Salat al-Istikhārah for moments of doubt. By praying Istikhārah, you are asking Allah to guide you toward what is good for your deen, dunya and Istikhārah, and to distance you from what could harm you. This act brings clarity because it shifts the burden from your own limited understanding to Allah's infinite wisdom.